Check this out, number 5, City Talk.
In the previous interview before the event, I asked you a little bit about change and reactions to change when you compare Hamburg and Schanze, gentrification, you know, kind of transformation processes, and what happened in New York. What were your sort of key learnings, how the people in the US and New York deal with change, with urban change, and compare that with what's happening in Hamburg?
Yeah, as I said, it's a bit surprising. There are two things. On the one side, they are accepting much more, and they think like we are New York. Our self-understanding is like being open for everybody. And as I mentioned, I was talking about flexibilization and such, and the effects of that on the neighborhood level and so on. They said like, New York is a 24-hour city everywhere, and we are not that judging. These are sentences the people said to me. And I thought, okay, maybe the Germans are just too critical, but maybe they have incorporated all this thinking that it's not my task to think about this as an urban society. So this is the one side. And then on the other side, this community activism thing is really much stronger there. That they build groups for a certain topic or for a certain thing and raise funds for that. And well, this is something that is done in Germany by the state, and there is a need more to do that. But this is something that's really stronger there too, this community activism thing.
So people in the US are basically more engaged when it comes to these issues compared to Germany. They would be more willing to sit together, discuss things? Or?
In general, I would not say that. I think these are very concrete things, like I mentioned in the beginning, like waste management or the planning of streets, and so they raise these issues. And it's really great how they can, how these community activist groups function and how passionate they are. And the Americans, they can really do good speeches and so. But the topics they are not very broad in their scope because they don't really want the society to be changed. And this is always something that social movements want here, or connect these little things with the bigger thing or so, and this is what they don't really do.
Also in the interview you said you said your worst experience of urban planning were most formal participation instruments. From your point of view, how can this participation become more fun again to join these things?
Fun, I don't know, it's fun.
Or more engaging maybe, more fascinating, more involving.
Yes, I think we already talked about some of these things, I think. I just experienced that the people are very dissatisfied with what they can really change and what they are allowed to say too, because there are many ideas and they can't really... What you said, that it's wiped out in a minute because it said we can't finance it, it's not our task, we are not the right people to talk about that, and so. And I think, this is the biggest problem, and I think these projects are great to opening up this process again. And I think it's a scale question when I think about or compare our talks. It's a very important one that the people are really concerned with what's happening in front of their door. And thinking about Hamburg as a city in 2030, this is really, there's a big gap. It can and must be connected, I think, but it's a difficult but important part to think about that.
If there was like one thing from what you saw in Williamsburg that you really liked about how they dealt with urban change or gentrification or whatever, that you would like to take to Hamburg and say, this would be really something that could change things for better. It could be even something small. What would this one thing be that you take over?
The small thing. Well, I think I listed it here, what I found the most interesting.
Yeah, but what's the one thing where you think like Germans, Hamburgians, if you take this one thing, you consider it will your life in urban...
What I want here, I don't know. Maybe I can think about it.
To be open to change.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, except from these lists, I don't want to transfer something from there to here. I don't.
Then I
have an answer
Then
to
I
that.
pull back the question.
Thank you.
That's all right. I think there's something that struck me that you said in the interview about this dealing with change compared in Williamsburg and Hamburg, is that, like, if I kind of quote it right now, hopefully, that you said that in the beginning, the people in Williamsburg were reacting kind of very critically to the changes, but then when they were made, they kind of got friends with it and said, oh, but this actually is a good thing. While in Germany,
Yes.
people would still be sort of anti.
Well, this what I said about this was concerned the rezoning plans, and the first plans for planning the rezoning was in the 80s sometimes. In the 90s there was a long planning process, and it was really approved only in 2005. And before that, there was much opposition to this rezoning plans. But then, when it got approved in 2005, and people are still not that satisfied with many things, this is not a big deal today. That they really want to rechange the rezoning or so.
Okay. How about we move to the Netherlands? Yeah.
Why not?
We got New York, take this airplane, supersonic, going over landing Amsterdam Airport International, and hand over to Tino, who yesterday actually presented his documentary, Creativity and the Capitalist City, to give another perspective to the panel and open it up for you even more. And I think we'll start with a little film clip.
Yeah, maybe just
Yeah?
a few words, and then let's
of
go
course.
for that
Sure.
clip. Like, I'm not going to talk very long. I would want to have the pictures speak rather, and it's not like it is about squatting in a sense, but like it's not like that's not the major title, as it doesn't say that in the title.
Yeah, I kind of claimed it.
It's a film about like the political culture as we talked in the Netherlands. It's about the crucial role of creativity in contemporary urbanism. It's about gentrification for sure. It's about participatory processes and people making their own city. But it's like about the use of space that's simply dealt with differently in the Netherlands. We have a variety of approaches. People live on. Certainly in houses. They live on waiting lists. They live in boats. They temporarily, long term, and so forth. That's quite amazing. And squatting has received a market answer basically. So no political answer or anything like that, but a market answer as simple as that, which I would especially want to focus on later on. Like how buildings are managed these days, vacant buildings, and due to what conditions. Like the issue of house sitting, live-in guardians, which is also developing all over Europe. In Hamburg there's an agency, in Düsseldorf, in Leipzig. So it's about the crucial issue of creativity and affordability, really. Like what's first, chicken and egg? Creativity, you can be creative with big money, for sure, with all the resources and human or material you need. But like I think there's a very, very crucial notion to creativity, always also that evolves from like little money, no money, things like that. And I guess that's why like Amsterdam has become such a role model for creative cities also. And I'm trying to shed some light on this, and I've now chosen, after a long time thinking about it, a scene from the the last part from the first chapter, which is still connected to squatting, and which really much reveals a social democratic attitude to this overly radical issue, which is so highly overloaded with ideology in Germany for the sake of property rights. This is dealt with in the Netherlands, very civilized, very easy, very relaxed. It's a come and go, basically, or at least was. must say that this is a historical document by now. Regulations have changed. But yeah, well, let's maybe have a look and then see more or talk more after.
Film up.
It's really difficult in both if you're a student or even if you're part-time working, finding spaces like for living. That's the first question. It's really difficult because of the whole gentrification and metamorphosis of the city. It's everything is getting renewed and renovated for really expensive apartments. And then comes the question of the working space. If you're an artist or you need a space to get along with people and develop the ideas for anything else, it's really difficult because big spaces are not being used. They're like big offices being built, and they're standing for renting for ages and ages and ages. So yeah, the kind of the solution that some people find is the anti-squat, but it's absolutely not a solution because then your rights are on such a low level that you can't actually use the building. And this is one of the mismanagement of this space, that there are a couple of sectors that are used by anti-squat, but they're also running down, and the company is not doing anything to help them, and they're not allowed to do anything. So it's yeah, the really complicated situation.
The biggest thing that you notice is house prices. House prices are high. They're up to between 3.5 and 4,500 euros per square meters in this part of Amsterdam. It's expensive. I'd hope we would have more continuation of the gentrification process as at the moment is happening, with more people with incomes coming to live here and upgrading the place. So you've got nice pubs, nice shops, nice parks. It becomes a nicer place to live. I've got big problems with squatting. The whole principle that because a place is not being used, you're entitled to grab it. Just like if you park your car, you go on holiday for a week, and then somebody takes it because you're not using it. I think the principle is very, very wrong. I remember when I was rebuilding my own house. I mean, just to get a building permit takes a year, but within a year they're allowed to squat. I had sleepless nights that would come home from a weekend to my mum, and my house would be occupied by strange people. I think it's a very scary concept. On the other hand, this thing here has been empty for 5 years. I mean, I do understand that at some point, people, if nobody uses it, somebody will. I do understand that.
I hope that there will be some good things going to happen here. Like what's written there, is there going to be a biological garden? That's something I like for the artists. Me, myself, I do a children's theatre. That's my job, so if there's place for a little theatre for the children, because I perform for 2 years, so I start with 2, so it's a beautiful space, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. There's lots of ideas, yeah.
Nou, ik zou heel graag een disco willen.
Oh, she would love a disco. Disco play, echt? Ja.
Nee, een filmding.
the Labour Party or the Dutch Social Democrats are in favor of squatting, as long as it doesn't, you know, it's you don't do any damage, or it's, you know, non-violent and all that sort of thing. So we've even in the city of Amsterdam, the Social Democrats also voted against the law which said that squatters had to be evicted early on, and we said no, we don't think it's a good idea. But I think squatting is a way also to keep politicians like myself, to keep them on the ball, to see, okay, well, what's their point, and you have a dialogue. So I think it's good to be for innovation, and you may not always agree, but it's always, you know, it's power and countervailing power. So I think that's very healthy in a democracy such as Amsterdam.
It's very hard because you're dealing with people who have no knowledge of, at least that's my perception, who have very little knowledge, let me take that back, of how creative people work, because you have to have a space to develop your ideas. And when you have no money, the times get very, very hard, because everything now gets, according to the big city examples of New York or whatever, you have to have a lot of money to develop something here. The prices are skyrocketing in Amsterdam, and what used to be like 10 years possible for everybody to have little money but a lot of ideas to develop is almost impossible now. And we have to make the people aware that a city needs a creative spot, because if there's no creativity, if everything gets like office buildings, everything goes to the people who can pay like 250 euros per square meter, then the whole atmosphere will change in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is known throughout the world as a place where everything must be possible. And there is a sort of nice atmosphere in Amsterdam, and that goes down, and that's very hard to struggle with.
I think that especially the context of the squatters ban creates a platform for us, and so I think it's very useful. There's a lot of discussion points that we can get on the big canvas of the public opinion because of the squatting ban being there. And what is interesting is that the squatters always are like on this front of social debate. They're on the front in the debate about human rights. They're in the front of the debates about property, about distribution, because they put themselves on the front, but also because society around understands this role as such. So as far as the movement is concerned, I think it would help that people contextualize themselves a little better. So a lot of people are running around in a squatters movement thinking that they're the Spanish anarchists and they're gonna win some revolution soon. So I think this is like a delusion. And there's more delusions like this, and if people could like get rid of this delusion and become 21st century politicians, then we could work more effectively.
I think the way that it's emerged, as in many respects it's disarmed some of its critics. But if you look around the world now at where the most severe criticisms are coming from of creativity, ironically it's often from the arts and cultural communities themselves. I know this is the case here in Amsterdam, in Berlin, in other European cities.
Listen, yeah? Yes. If you're an average citizen, you can't live here. Yeah? Okay. This is Amsterdam. This is a small city in a bigger urban context. Yeah? If you're an average citizen, you go and live in Rotterdam. Yeah? If you come to Amsterdam, it's like a festival town. To make it here, you have to have something special. If you don't have anything special, you leave.
There's a lot of space in Amsterdam empty, which cannot be commercially exploited for the next 5 or 10 years. So There are a lot of opportunities on this, but there's also always a lean back attitude among the real estate companies, because everybody has a nice glossy folder where it is pointed out that this building can be rented for 200 euros a square meter. So, and everybody wants to keep up this appearance because it is in fact a reflection of the value of a building.
My name is Joost van Gestel. I'm the CEO of Camelot Europe. Camelot is an organization that provides living spaces in temporary vacant properties. We call it live-in guardians, and we place these guardians, these occupiers, in temporary vacant properties. Not just homes, but also schools, offices, churches, monasteries, and even the occasional prison. In the Netherlands, the anti-squatting law, the law that forbids squatting, has two parts. Yes, there is the forbidding of squatting, which we all know ain't gonna happen. Yeah, squatting will still exist. And there's the second bit, and that's encouraging owners to do something with their vacant properties. Yeah? Either by giving them a financial incentive to transform a desperate office building into homes, or to punish them. It could also be a punishment to say, look, you have to do something. We don't know what, we're not the owner, but we'll punish you now because you have to do something. We see that the economical living period, the period that a building can be used for its purpose that is built, like a school or an office, is shrinking. So there will be more and more buildings come to the market which needs to be transformed or needs to be destroyed. If you look at all these homes that have been built in the 1700s, they need to be transformed a little bit. Look at all these homes that have been rushed after World War II. A lot of them with a toilet in the garden, no shower. They're really not of modern standards, so they need to be changed. And the time for that is now, last 10 years, next 10 years. So there will be an enormous flood of properties that are not up to standards, so they will be empty between the current use and a new use. So that is the one thing. And yes, I really believe that in this case the Dutch model of house sitting expanded from homes to non-homes, to commercial properties, will expand over Europe. We see this also in the way that institutional owners look at it, and also cautious owners or cautious companies like insurance companies. We work with insurance companies who say, yes, this is a great way of securing a site. We will give the owner full coverage and equal price as if it was an office, as if it was an occupied school. So there is a very clear stimulation for the owner to work with us. If you look in the last 5 years in the Netherlands, the number of these so-called live-in guardians increased to around 50,000. We have 16 million Dutch people, so 3 out of 1,000 are living in a temporary accommodation. And I really feel that those numbers can be applied to England or to France, or who knows, in a couple of years, to Germany, which means that several 100,000 of people travel between homes, schools, churches, MOD complexes and offices that are temporarily empty, making creative, affordable spaces.
So Tino, the man from Camelot, is it a parody or is it a true story? This one.
You question whether this is a true story?
Is it like Saturday Night Live, or is it actually happening, like traveling from living in a prison to a church and then back to a school?
Well, that's very Dutch. Like you would have in former churches, you would have supermarkets, you would have disco places, cultural places, anything. Like they would do anything with space that's yeah, that's just possible to do, I'd say.
What happened? Isn't it a little bit weird?
Yeah, well, I actually don't know about his example, like that they would actually accommodate people in prison, temporarily on this flexible basis. But so this is quite new. But it must be somewhere, and I'm about to explore this issue of anti-squat more, and go and see how it's working in Belgium, in England, France, Germany. So that will be next issue. Yeah, what I know so far is that you need to be quite flexible to do this. Yeah, young, white, flexible.
Okay. So in the beginning you said, before we showed the short clip, that actually this is a historical movie, a documentary, because 2010 marked the abandonment of the right to squat in the Netherlands. I know if you're all aware of the right to squat, maybe a two-sentence explanation from your side. What does it mean, the right to squat, that we don't have in Germany, obviously?
Yeah. Well, just the use of space was bound to conditions, like that space may not be empty while there's so many people seeking space, especially affordable space. And therefore, the building may not be, the deal was that the building may not be empty for longer than 1 year. If that's detected, and then you could easily find this out via Google Earth, yeah, and via the Katasamt and blah blah blah. But this was all done and then appropriated, and the police would only come to check vacancy, and then other than that, it's a civil issue between the lawyers of the owner and of the squatters.
Now that you say that this legislation changed, that squatting is not that easy anymore, that they try to set this kind of human guardians into the houses. What effects did this legal change have to cultural project, housing, and city life in general in Amsterdam or the Netherlands from your perspective?
Well, so far it means that squatting is becoming again what it was before. It's no longer such a civil issue which you can do. Help yourself for housing. Students did this a lot. People would rely on anti-squat, people that usually would use this option of helping themselves for housing, they would rely on anti-squat if they're students or artists, for example. These two groups are quite the target group, the primary target group. And what we see in Amsterdam is that people leave Amsterdam. If they can no longer afford it, they would leave Amsterdam to Berlin, for example.
Okay. So I think it was in 2003 or something where this Richard Florida came up with the whole creative city hype thing and traveled to all over the world, conferences, interviews, writing books and stuff like that. Was this a little bit of a devil's advocate now from perspective 8 years later? This Florida dude?
They were much faster?
They started with Brotsplätzen project.
Yeah.
Breeding places,
That's my chapter 3.
But they started already when they saw squatting is down in Amsterdam already in the 90s. Then they saw the creatives are leaving the city for Berlin, Rotterdam, Antwerpen. And then they started to, you know it much better, I'm quite sure, but I think they were much ahead of Richard Florida in finding out that there's a connection between subversion and creativity and the well-being of the city, something like that. They are so unbelievably pragmatic about it.
But I mean, still my question remains, this Richard Florida, he went around, he kind of coined this term of the creative city and how much economic capital it had, and a lot of cities actually embraced this theory, and a lot of magazines reprinted this. And now I think probably from an 8 years perspective, since he coined it first, I see the mics are getting in position, which I think is a good sign. From an 8 years after perspective, I mean, how do you sort of put this into relation?
Well, I always believed or saw that political activists they have a certain subversive charm and create alternative markets. We should be aware of that, and people who are doing this this is the gentrification discourse. Should be aware of this, that they actively are part of this game, and their subversive charm is absorbed into the real estate market, and therefore like it has the crucial consequences that we basically know: displacement and so forth, rising house prices and displacement basically. So. I don't know. I heard Richard Florida commenting on the Gängeviertel also, like to assist the city of Hamburg, like to take it easy and like because it's going to contribute the creative image. So like
it will
this
create
is the
value.
Same story in Amsterdam too. I think this is why Amsterdam is what it is.
Other opinions from the panel? I think you all got your mics ready. Why?
Just very short. You can't avoid the idea of creativity, and when you're talking about planning, it's unfortunately, but I think it's declining these days. I'm not sure, but I asked the officials in New York the same thing, and they said we knew that always that there's a big connection. Like it was before Florida published their books and his books. But now we have a better thing to promote it, and it was for legitimating projects that went in this direction, and I think this sounds a bit like that too, doesn't it? Maybe these connections were there before, but I experienced that in New York. It wasn't new, but it was a good thing to fuel the whole discussion.
Yeah, I would say even with all the bad impacts afterwards, first of all, he raised the sensibility for the creativity processes in the city for city officials that always thought in terms of motorways and things like this when they thought about improving their city. And what now seems obvious that we have people in the city dealing with topics of creativity, if you like it or not, this is maybe a step ahead. And it's a pity that then this discourse divided into, let's say, creativity in a sense of a global creativity class, traveling knowledge workers, and let's say grassroots creativity. And these two discourses aren't still connected yet, so they have to be reconnected, I think.
Carlo, what's the deal with this Richard Florida thing?
No, I think I agree with what you just said. So I wouldn't add anything.
Just because I have the mic, yeah. Just one comment. I think I heard that one absurd thing that happened with Richard Florida, that it became a big thing to mayors in cities like Erlangen and Paderborn and all these not so big global cities, and that they saw that's the big thing now, how they have the blueprint for their cities and not for the really big cities.
Well, we've had Richard Florida on our trend day, and I think no one of the audience here should blame one who is just good in marketing. And I think also urban planning needs some marketing to get distributed, like you said, to various audiences. But I think what you showed is not the idea of Richard Florida, in fact, because what you showed in these houses is still the idea that the investor owns the house and that the people who squat there are only living for a certain time, but they are not living there on their own, with their own attitude, with their own idea of changing something. And the idea of Richard Florida was that before investors have high rents or everything, or prices are rising, that there is a creativity, or that there is artists and people who have not much money but who can build up an infrastructure of a certain quartier, and the investors selling this for high money, they come later on, and this is different here.
Yeah, true. This is not explicitly like a Florida example. I don't even know if he knows about this temporary contracting nowadays, which is called as such a thing, and which serves so many artists or young people, students, and so forth, and which may also create creativity or make it possible, providing this cheap space. But like you would always agree to those conditions. But you're right. It's not a Richard Florida example. Like Well, it's primarily using space, which is a good thing, and which is actually some threat for for the old argument like that vacancy would be like that buildings would be empty if not. What's that? Within these anti-squat. Yeah.
People are only. There's no development for the quartier, and the quartier needs the development to develop itself. And so you have a status of, which is normally achieved later on, perhaps, without being empty. And you host people in there just to let it like it is. Although it is perhaps not in a school anymore, and perhaps it is not useful anymore. And so you was heißt denn verhindern?
Change. Prevent.
Prevent a development of the quartier in its proper sense.
Well, like I said, like my film tries to frame the whole discourse, creative class discourse, which is so closely connected to Richard Florida. But like you're perfectly right that this is like not the best example, since you may not touch anything really. It only accommodates artists, but they may not smoke in there. They may not have a party, guests overnight, no pets, no. What else? They need to call in for vacation.
The dirty laundry.
Dirty laundry. Like the contract says, they have to make their bed in the morning and then put the laundry in the laundry basket. Stuff like that.
And they control it.
They do like without notice. Like you agree on the contract, you agree to such conditions, but in practice it's like not executed as such. This is also what one can tell. But like they could always go like you have agreed to such conditions.
I really hate to sort of be the bad guy now and cut this all down and shut the whole place down, which I won't. Because I think we're already in an open Q&A, and I would very much like to sort of extend this to Q&A and some drinks and mix and sort of keep these conversations going, because we already passed like the 2-hour duration of the event. Thank you very much for coming. Please stay. Don't run right to your car now and drive home, because I think there's a lot of more conversations that can be sort of continued from here. Thank you very much from to our panel, to Tino, Anne, Julian and Carlo. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for buying tickets. Thanks to all the sponsors supporting Checkdisout. Thanks to Kunstverein. Thanks to Mirko, Yvonne, to Andreas over at the sound, and everyone who helped. And buy this movie, Creativity in the City. I think it's 10 euros. Tino has a couple of copies, then it's really worth it watching the entire thing. It's Creative Commons as well. So thanks so much for coming and bearing with us. Have a nice evening. And the good news is Checkdisout will be back in February 2012, that is, with Robin Chase from Zipcar on future mobility and some more. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Thanks. Thank you.